Now, you've probably been told that if you just raise your vibration high enough, then you're going to manifest everything that you want. And for a while, you probably believed it and gave you some good feelings inside, and heck, maybe you still do believe it, and that's totally okay. But this can only take us so far, because the affirmations, they're going to stop working, and the pain underneath it isn't going to go away. But here's a little bit of a deeper truth from somebody who's been living this path for over a decade. Chasing the life that you want is not the same as surrendering to the path that you're meant to walk. Now, don't let that scare you. I'm not taking your manifestations away. It's actually better than that, because this video is going to break down the deeper purpose of our awakening and why it's not really about control, but about becoming ready to serve life by removing all of the stuff in the way of doing that inside of ourselves, so that you stop bypassing your pain, start aligning with your real purpose, and finally feel the clarity and fulfillment that you've been searching for. Now, I'm Jamie. I'm an undercover yogi, which essentially means I wear a cap and normal clothes. And I had a spontaneous awakening at 19 with zero guidance and no framework to understand it. Later, I found a teacher and spent over a decade in yogic training. I even lived as a yogic monk for a while, breaking down everything so that I could finally make sense of my own experience. Now, from that, I've been sharing the exact step-by-step path that not only helped me make sense of my awakening, but hundreds of my students too, so that they didn't have to suffer the years of doubt and confusion and trying to piece it all together themselves that I see all over the internet. So, to combat this, I'm going to download over a decade's worth of yogic experience into you to save you years on your path from the time that I wasted on mine. So, in this video, you're going to discover the mistakes that I made on my path that cost me years, where the spiritual path is really taking you, the truth about your purpose, and finally, how you actually unlock your highest destiny. And hint, it's not law of attraction. So, the mistakes that I made on my path that cost me years, let's go through them and revel in my inward shame together. Except not really, because you don't know what you don't know, isn't it? So I've forgiven myself. Now, at first, the manifesting mindset feels empowering, doesn't it? Like you're finally in control, shaping your reality. But what happens when you're asked to look at deeper aspects of yourself when the results of your manifestations stop showing up? Because I guarantee you, they will, and for some of you, they probably already are. Well, you keep trying to raise your vibration, but the same emotional cycles keep returning, and you keep attracting the same types of people and situations into your life that you already know you don't prefer. You may even follow every single abundance technique, but your core confusion remains. At a certain point, you start to feel like potentially God's forgotten child, and you begin to question, and at least I did, can I even manifest a pot to piss in? See, at some point, you realize raising your vibration to get what you want is actually just spiritualized control. And control can't take you where your awakening is actually trying to lead you, which is freedom and liberation. So, a word of warning, don't sip too much of the social media Kool-Aid. At the start of your path, you are, if you're anything like me, obsessed with spiritual content. But having grown up on the internet and having grown up with my awakening on the internet, what if this is actually only giving you the illusion of progress? Because watching a nice video might give you some temporary relief, a little touch of peace. But you look back and you realize, despite all of the videos that you've watched, you're still wrestling with the same core patterns and suffering from inaction on your path. Now you're attracting the same nonsense and similar situations that you were 5 years ago, you know? And maybe we could be afraid to admit that watching all of these videos actually isn't really creating any change at all for all of us. Now, unfortunately, this is called spiritual bypassing, and it's where you avoid the hard work for comfort. Now, it doesn't always feel like avoidance. Sometimes it feels like growth, and this is where it gets really confusing, and took me years to really see through this inside of myself. But years do pass, and nothing in us truly changes, except we've grown more of a spiritual ego that's become more informed and pseudo-enlightened. So really all that's changed is your thinking, and there's nothing really profound or spiritual about that. So now that we've looked at some of the mistakes that I've made in my path, where is this spiritual journey really taking you. Because see, when you do sip too much of that YouTube spiritual Kool-Aid, we start thinking this path is about something that it isn't. And we can get hooked on the manifestation hype and finding our purpose. But what if this journey was never about manifesting a perfect life, but about being reshaped day by day, slowly but surely, into something ready to serve something greater than yourself? You see, because you start to see at a certain point your old desires through a new lens, and maybe they start to feel hollow, maybe a bit shallow and yucky. Perhaps your lack of resonance with the work that you do in your life is because you aren't willing to engage fully. Maybe that's because your motives are solely focused on yourself. They're self-serving. Now listen, there's nothing wrong with that in the first instance. Everything that we begin must, in its first instance, serve ourselves. But the deeper you go, the less it is about success and serving the sense of self internally, although you won't turn your nose up at a little bit more success, but it does become more about surrendering to the success that can come if you'll only stop serving yourself and try and start serving the whole. Manifesting your true path isn't about getting what you want. It's about becoming who you're meant to be by walking in the fire of your own life and meeting each challenge that is put into your life with a life-positive attitude. And really, life is a system that's rigged for your success, but only if you can meet and grow and purify through those challenges that you meet, because that's what creates your highest destiny. But before we get onto that, let's talk about the truth about your purpose. Your purpose isn't yours, and that's a good thing. Have you spent a long time asking, what the blooming hell is my purpose and how do I find it? Well, if you have, what if that question is actually pointing you in the wrong direction entirely? Don't worry, I did this for years. Because in that space, we're trying to figure it out in our heads, and that leads to a lot of overthinking, pressure, and then action paralysis. Now, it's interesting because you've probably outgrown your old goals. They may not excite you anymore, but no new vision has arrived yet. You're kind of in this in-between phase. And in my personal experience, my version of purpose has actually changed massively, but I never would have heard the calling from within if I didn't do my sadhana. Now, sadhana is just your daily spiritual practice that will remove the lenses in your mind that are keeping you separate from serving life. Now, if I didn't do that sadhana, it wouldn't have allowed me to get honest enough with myself to hear what my primal urge is, which is essentially just revealing what your energies would have done naturally before they got all screwed up by the world. And this is what we want to get in touch with, because then you'll be living with purpose. So when you stop trying to chase a personal mission and instead align with what life needs from you by removing the lenses in your mind and just becoming an instrument of service to life, then ideas through your sadhana and inspiration as to what you could do to serve life even more in a more passionate and a more exciting way come up to the surface. And with your sadhana comes the energy then to begin, and the self-belief, to begin enacting it in the world. So now then, let's pose that question. How are we actually going to unlock our highest destiny? Because if life has a path for you, then does that mean that everything is predetermined, or do you still have a choice? Well, it's a tricky one, this one, and it seems to me that our soul does have a journey with set challenges that we are here to overcome and grow through. And it doesn't look like there's any changing that, no matter of how many manifestation techniques you do. You're just going to have to move through the fire of your soul's challenge. But do know that it's just there to create the highest version of yourself so that you can serve life. Life isn't here to hurt you. But also, they don't call this the path to greatness for no reason, because it's going to ask everything from you, your might, your willpower, and your commitment. And if you aren't willing to face the darkest depths of yourself and be challenged to your max at points for your soul's development, I would say honestly, don't even bother. But each decision that you make is actually an invitation into a timeline shift, because where is your future created, right? It's created in the now, because the past doesn't exist apart from an idea in your mind. And the future also doesn't exist apart from an idea in your mind. It's mental. The past and the future are mental concepts. You've only lived in the now. And so now is where your future is created, by the decisions that you're making. So what decisions are you making? And how are you meeting the toughest moments in your life? Because there are forks in the road where you can either avoid the hard thing or meet it fully. And that only ever happens now. And those moments determine where your path actually goes. Now, if you're serious about your spiritual journey and you're a sincere spiritual aspirant, don't go it alone. The most painful part of awakening isn't the confusion or even the discomfort. It's doing it all without guidance. So if you're tired of piecing advice together from Reddit threads and random videos on TikTok and YouTube, if you're sick of temporary relief and not actually moving anywhere, and you want lasting transformation, and if you know what doesn't work, but still don't really know what does, then book a call with me down below, because trying to piece together a DIY path from Reddit threads and YouTube clips is just going to keep you circling for a long time and maybe even doom scrolling. See, real transformation needs real structure, guidance, training, and, from you, willingness. So now that you've been armed with some of the mistakes that I've made on my path that will hopefully save you from the years of confusion, you have to actually enact it though. Perhaps you want to know the exact system that helped me explode my spiritual growth. And if you do, in the next video, I'm going to give you the exact step-by-step path that I use to move me through each stage of my spiritual development, and what practices and teachings each stage is trying to impart. So if that is interesting to you, then you can watch that one right there.